Welcome to our podcast from the ground up, where we interview startup founders exploring their journeys, their success, challenges, and lessons learned. We hope you be inspired in discovering what it takes to build a thriving startup. I'm your host, Jake Aaron Villarreal, and here with us today we have Sorob Louie. Sorob is a renowned technology innovator and entrepreneur known for founding VirtuLabs and co-founding Cardamore AI. He has collaborated on projects with Apple, Google, and Meta, to name a few world-class organizations. With extensive experience in software and AI, Sorob excels in integrating cutting-edge technology with user-friendly design. Sorob, you've got a great background on the technology side, and you're one of the first that we're talking to that's got multiple companies that have been bootstrapped that you're growing. We'll dive into that. Before we do that, where are you joining us from today?
I'm currently in San Francisco.
Great. Are you originally from there?
No, I grew up in Iran. I'm from Iran and moved to the US like 20 years ago. Um, I was one of those kids who basically grew up with technology in a country that technology wasn't a thing at that time. We were a little bit behind, and I was like one of the programmers that um, just learned it on my own. And we had internet, but it was super slow. Like when there was like ISDN or whatever here, like broadband, we had dial up. Um, and I was pretty connected with the tech world and Silicon Valley, but it was all through, I don't know, internet. And um, back then there wasn't even MySpace. We had like Yahoo. Yeah, I grew up with that. And then I moved to the US.
Got it. That's great. Your upbringing, you talked a little bit about, but what inspired you to eventually be an entrepreneur? What helped shape you in your upbringing, you think?
To be honest, I think about it a lot. I was one of those kids that never chose a path, and the path was already picked since I was 6 or 7. I don't know by who, but I remember like in elementary school, I my toys were like electronics components. Like I used to go and buy these kits that you could like put together to make like I don't know, like a flashing light or some sort of a electronic board for playing music. And that was like I was playing with a solder early ages, like maybe middle school. I don't remember, like a solder iron, which is super hot. I used to burn my fingers all the time, and my mom was like, "What are you doing?" Always afraid that I would get electrified and die. Yeah.
So, technology early on, um, really cool. You talked about starting in Iran, growing up there, living there, and then came to the US. Was that a change of for your career? Was it a family move? What was the journey like there for you?
Yeah, it was a family move. My whole family moved here. I mean, most of my mom's side, they all lived here for like decades. Um, they all left during the revolution. But for some reason, we were left behind. And I remember, like, we always thought that we would leave next year, and then the next year, and the next year. And then I was like 18, 19 when it happened. Um, but I'm glad it happened a little bit later because um, it kind of pushed me to, you know, I don't know, have a tougher skin maybe, which is
Mm,
very needed if you're an entrepreneur and you're doing your own thing. Uh, so it worked out at the end.
yeah. You know, most of companies start out with an idea and they bring that to market and they build a company around it and they get funding and, they're kind of off to the races, whether it succeeds or not, you know,
Mhm.
who knows. But for you, your path is, you know, probably more normal for the most founders that start companies. You don't always go out and get funding. You bootstrap, you use the resources you have, you find a market and you build and you have a good company. And sometimes you grow that into a place where it gets acquired. Maybe you do get funding, or maybe you just turn off the lights and start something new. Walk us through the journey of what you started with VirtuLabs. And we're also going to dive into kind of where else you spend your time, because you have two or three other companies. So
True.
just give us a foundation behind your story.
Um, yeah, like most of the startups that I've started, they never scaled too big, and they were always cash flow positive from the beginning. I started in Iran. When I was in high school, there weren't that many programmers in the market. So I was this little kid just being happy playing with his toys, whatever. It was like making websites or back then there was something called Flash. We made animations with it. And then like people came and paid me to do things for them. I'm like, okay, I'm already doing this. Here's for you. Like I remember even made like projects for PhD students. Like they were like, program this for me. I'm like, okay. So it started kind of early on, and in Iran there was this sanction thing where like they were not allowed to import a lot of high tech stuff. So the competition was, and I wasn't sophisticated enough to be able to like milk that, but a lot of other people who hired me knew that. So I ended up like building tools to record like X-ray machines and like printers, uh, like computer vision for like medicine and medical projects, and like not that many that sophisticated type of projects, but a lot of people needed that at that time. And then when I moved here, I worked with like a doctor um, who created this alternative way of parsing your blood lab results. Like you do a blood test and then it had different measurements. Um, and that was like one of the first projects I did in the US. I studied like a little bit of engineering and arts. So I was always fascinated with, um, projects that also look good, like user centric projects. And that's been like the path so far. And VirtuLabs is basically the first consulting firm that I started. I consult with some other people in that company. Like we've done projects for Google, we've done projects for Apple, um, a lot of AR, VR projects, a lot of immersive experiential projects. Like we did some AR for the Van Gogh exhibit, which you walk into this projection map building and all the Van Gogh art pieces are all around. And you're just immersed in that. Some other projects similar to that where you walk in and it's like an African safari. You're in Africa. All the walls are projected in like a giant space. Like you would see a giraffe in real size projected on the wall. And I mean, there's a lot of tech behind the scene to figure out where you are in this space. As you walk, you leave like footsteps behind. Kids love that, just like running around. Ooh, yeah,
Yeah, I want to jump in on that because I took a look at the website, and um, it's amazing to see the interaction. I mean, it literally looks like you're inside, like in the field of a safari, and you can see animals walking by you and drinking from water, and kids like running after animals, and you can see their footprints behind them. Or, I mean, the feeling that you get, it doesn't do it justice by telling you. You actually have to see it. And to me, it feels like an Apple-esque type of design, or some sort of experience that it's almost like you're in another world. So it's truly amazing. And that to me was one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show, is just to kind of understand what led you to kind of creating projects like that. Because if you think about building companies, some are project by project,
hmm,
and others are more, sustainable systems that you license and you have monetary subscriptions for. But there's something to be said about the artistic side of technology and the impact it has on humanity. You see these kids walking through this museum, and it's like life changing for some. Maybe it's really, really cool. So
sure.
how did you kind of get into that space, and did you partner with some of the bigger technology companies to do that?
Yeah, definitely. It takes a village to make these projects happen. Like there is a company that just does projection. We do most of the programming, and other teams do like some of the graphic design and videos. Someone shot those videos in Africa. We didn't do that. And there was this parent company that funded everything, that we all worked for them. Getting to that space, to be honest, when you have a passion for building, experiences, the best way to do it is do it physically in spaces where people walk in and they can experience something they cannot experience at home. And this large scale, it's becoming more trendy. Like if you go to New York now, there's like Artec House and there's another one called Interconnected. And these like journeys that you take, like the people take to go through different experiences to learn something or like feel something, those are like fascinating. And I used to live in Portland, Oregon, and worked for a company called Second Story, where most of the clients were museums. And there was a lot of text and things to look at and read. But we worked on the interactives. Like we created little experiences where people could like go to a touch screen, click on things, and like see things in a different way, listen to stories, like watch videos, even, which at that time for museums, it was like a, high tech thing. Now it's more
Yeah.
normal. And like, I used to just go, and instead of like going through the experience, I was just like waiting for people to go through the stuff that we made. And that was like more interesting for me than like actually like enjoying the museum. Because like you could see how their facial expression changes, and they're like amazed and look at this, look at that. Um, Same thing with all these experiential projects. Like when you get that little kid that's like super excited and like you're like, finally all the work that we've done is paid off. It's more of like a emotional reward. And sometimes when you build apps or like websites, you don't get to experience, you know, that one-on-one feedback that you get in experiential projects. Uh, like right now with Cardamore, we are creating this AI generated greeting card uh, project, and people, I've seen people making it. Like we've done user studies, and we know that it's been opened. Like we can track numbers, but we are not like recording the person who receives it and opens it. Uh, Privacy. But that would be that would be cool for me, like just like to see how like people actually react to these cars being delivered to them.
Talk about that a little bit. What was the inspiration behind Cardamore and what exactly does it do?
Um, Cardamore is a brand new project recently released. We are using AI to generate a very personalized uh, message and a cover that you can basically customize and then send it to your friend, your boss, your well, whoever. So right now there is a lot of Christmas cards being sent, and you can say, "My friend, has a cat, so I want the cover to be like a Christmas tree and her and the cat," and then the messages are like, "I want it to be poetic, talk about this," and then it writes the message for you, and then you have like a third page that you can actually type, not using AI. And then we are hoping that not only we customize the whole card and then make it more, I don't know, personal for you to make something. It's like you're crafting a beautiful graphic and then sending it to your friend with like a personal message. And then hopefully that would help you express what you have, the love you have for them or the whatever you got. that you're trying to convey.
That's great. So that's all online. Is there a manual card as well that can be produced out of that? Or is it
Yeah.
all send the message with the AI created design and whatever wording it creates?
Right now it's all virtual, but we're working on creating a printout of that and send it through mail as well. Um, the digital version is like simulating the physical version
Hmm.
that will be. Like you receive an email, you click on it, you see the back of the card, and then you can open it, and it opens the card for you, and then you can read inside. And then you flip it, and there is like the logo. It's really similar to like an actual card that you used to get in mail. But like all of it is unique to that user. Like it's all generated. There's nothing like it um, out there.
I love that. I mean, that's just an example, use case really of AI, doing the job of someone that would have to be a creative person to sit down and come up with their design and then hope somebody would buy it or use it and send it out. So with technology, especially in AI, we're just seeing such a such an integration of AI in different applications and really throughout the world, many different companies. Um, so I want to touch on a few different things. One is we're talking a little bit about your companies, but everybody has their thoughts about AI and kind of the rise of artificial intelligence, integration of it into current technologies, and really what that does. But then also, for the user, that experience. Give us kind of your thoughts on how AI is changing how we live today and some of the areas that you are well versed in that you're seeing as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's strange times. We are recording this right before 2024, and what a year we had. Like looking back from like dial up to where we are now, and like my grandfather probably didn't even have electricity at some point in his life. So coming all the way to AI and having uh, computers do our jobs for us. Uh, it's a great time to be alive, to be honest. It's like maybe it's the pivotal point of um, I don't know, the collaboration between human and machine. The the uncertainty is, I don't know, crazy high. We don't know what's coming. Even though we are in the field and we're building it, we don't know where it's going. Um, like the type of projects that we used to do, like we do a lot of AR VR projects. I've done projects where you need a lot of 3D designers and 3D animators to come and like build worlds for your virtual reality projects. And now that we've seen AI doing a lot of amazing job on 2D, we know 3D is next, and which is needed because it's such a hard thing to do, like creating every little object by hand. It's time consuming and it's very expensive. So for AR VR projects to become a thing and the virtual reality industry to take off, we need AI to do a lot of the work for us. But where are we going to do? Like, what are we going to do? Where are we going to work? If AI is going to take over, like right now, everyone's using ChatGPT, which is like you write something and it writes you back. But how many years are we from the version that, you know, it's a browser. So you type something, it shows you your user interface and you can click on it, or even talk to it, or even walk into it using. So, like, when it all merges in, a lot of those traditional programming jobs would probably go away. Uh, there would be new ones, hopefully. But are we all becoming like a AI operator at some point? Just like in manufacturing where people just like stood by the big machine and made sure it does its job. Are we going to do that? I don't know.
Yeah. There's a lot of different opinions on that. I'm of the opinion that AI will help people do their job better. If you don't embrace it, you're probably going to be out of a job too. So,
Hmm.
they talk about co-pilots and software development that can do the mundane stuff that faster, maybe more, I don't know, accurately than a developer or a human. But then what does that do for the developer? Maybe it allows you to be more creative in different areas. Maybe it's the things that you don't necessarily want to spend your time on. You're creating and developing new applications or architecting or different areas within an application or just in general within a product. So yeah, it's kind of early to tell what's going to happen, but you know, if you look at the market and you think about staffing, for example, you know, what happens to companies that are looking to hire less people because they don't need as many to do the same job, or maybe they are more strategic in how they go about their business. So they do need different people, different core skills that we don't see. I mean, we 6 months ago, we were talking to Scale AI, which is very prominent in AI and labeling data and helping companies really make good use of their data and be able to, integrate AI. But 12 months ago, they were telling us that they hired their first prompt engineer, and no one had even defined that title.
Yeah.
That was 12 months ago. Today, prompt engineering is just someone that knows how to speak a language and is able to ask questions and ask it in different ways, and you end up training a model that eventually gives you the output you want. So even titles of roles and what you do to help within that whole space is evolving so quickly. A lot to see through before we really know, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's true. Touching on that prompt engineering, I remember when I graduated, a lot of my friends who were English majors, they had a hard time finding jobs. Now, prompt engineering, if you have an English degree, you are a prompt engineer because all it needs is like someone who could like communicate in details and like understand the back and forth between the language models, large language models. Also, like you mentioned about like AI, like labeling data. We are working on another startup called Cloud Fusion, and we are creating an interface to make it easier for DevOps people to orchestrate cloud and like use best practices. But um, now that like Microsoft and Google, they're all behind these large language models, one of the fears that we have is we build this product and we release it. And at that time that we release it, language models might be so advanced that no one actually has to do anything. You just type in what you want in the cloud, like scale it, or like I'm getting DDoS, like take care of it for me. And you're basically chasing against a more intelligent being. Like
Yeah.
you're in competition with something that you created that is a little bit faster than you. It's tough for all the startups to rethink through the product cycle and like the 5 year vision, the 10-year vision. Um, all the funding is going to AI, but there's a reason, like, which I don't know if the smaller startups would even survive against the bigger ones like Google and OpenAI. But um, it's a tough landscape and it's a tough um, bet. Like you're betting against AI or pro AI. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's stay on the topic of AI tools and development. So if you look into the future, you've got different tools. We can talk about PyTorch, and obviously we know about ChatGPT. AI expanding in software development, and I guess some of the creative problem solving that we're seeing there. But give us kind of your thoughts. You're in the trenches. You're innovating, and you're seeing trends happening. What do you think is the future here of the tools specifically for AI?
Yeah, there's this new thing called LangChain that I'm really interested in. And they created like blocks of code that uses AI in the middle. So you still program, Uh, but in the middle, you keep referring back to large language models or different like smaller AI models. And I was like reading about it and like using it, and I'm like, how far are we till all of this is automated? Like it writes itself. So you basically create, there is a GUI version, like a user interface version of it called Langflow or Flowwise, I think. And I feel like that's the future. Like you just put building blocks next to each other and then connect it. And then you ask the AI to take care of this part and then like generate that. And that would be like a little brain that you design and then implement into your applications. And like, how far are we from uh, like going past the co-pilot and just shipping little AI projects on your phone? Like your phone would be this large language model and it knows about you, and then your app would be the smaller model sitting on top of it, and then this multimodal type of environment where you just ask your phone to do this thing, and now that it has knowledge of this specific thing because it downloaded the app, it could just communicate with that app and does something new for you. um, I feel like we are going towards that, but I can't be certain. Again, I'm just thinking out loud here. Um, another fascinating thing that's happening is um, all these startups coming to basically help developers create websites using just like prompting. And then the next thing I see is, okay, we just take the developer out, and then the user who is using that website, based on their previous history, we could modify the websites on the fly so they would experience something that they are more used to or they prefer. So these hard coded, like static websites probably would go away. More conversational, more interactive, more being generated on the fly using AI, they would come in. And maybe that would be the next era of creation, like where you don't really need to have a lot of knowledge to build things. Building would be easier, so everyone could help creating this ecosystem using AI. Um, Even maybe it's not just tech, maybe like medicine. Like, how many times do we go to the doctor just because we're coughing? And all they do is like measuring our heart rate, measuring our temperature, measuring the sound of like how we breathe, basically. And we have sensors for all of that. We just pipe it into like an AI model, and then it would generate the result for us. Blood work, I think we still have to go to the hospital for, unless we do some chips. We swallow some chips or something. I don't know that. Should ask. Yeah, we should ask Bill Gates. He has experience
Yeah.
building vaccines with AI chips in them.
Lots of topics out there. You worked with some big companies, Meta, Google, some of the big organizations out there. What was your experience working with them, and what influence do you see with those big tech companies with the trends in technology, maybe even AI? What are the pros and the cons that you kind of walked away with your experience working with sort of the big tech organizations?
Um, I mean, I've only worked with these big companies as an outsider. I've never been an employee of Meta or other big companies. I've been always either consulting or they had a project that they sent to us and then we did it for them. Um, and I think when you grow too big, you're either like very focused on the core and you don't have time for the other things, or you get very slow and you still need the smaller teams to come and be fast. Um, from a lot of AR, VR, and for Meta, I did like some work with their assistant team where like you do voice recognition and like intent recognition using AI. So a lot of conversational stuff. And then I've done work with their RVR team as well. It's fascinating what we can achieve with like clustering people and giving them a lot of power, because bigger companies have a lot of money, so they can like scale really big. And I feel like the same thing happened with AI. Like we scaled because we just piled up our money in like one server and just like set it on fire. And out of that fire, the ash came this phoenix, large language models, uh, which was expensive to build, but like it changed like an industry. And I think similar thing happened with AR VR. Like billions of dollars went into this, and then finally, after like decades, we are with Apple releasing their goggle. We see like it's getting somewhere finally. Um, and so many times people were like, no, AR VR is dead. It didn't work out. And then like 3 years later, a new headset came in. And like this building markets instead of like waiting for markets to happen is what these bigger tech companies are doing. They create new markets for us, for the rest of the people, which is crazy. Like no one needed a goggle. They made the need. They made the goggle and they made the need. Same with AI. Like we didn't even envision it, but then some papers came out and then they created an industry around it. Um, I've been fortunate to be a small part of all those big events, uh, just because I love technology and technology trends. I jump on everything. Uh, but it's fascinating just in the last 10 years how far we've gone.
Yeah. Talking about the Apple Vision Pro, we had a guest on just yesterday who was involved in the AI build out of that product. And there's so many teams that are building this incredible product that you can, wear and see things as they are, and also have a virtual world embedded into what you're viewing, and where you look, can dictate like what you're reading within the screen, and being able to send messages just by your eyes, and being able to communicate with your voice, and everything's quickly um, sent out. And if it's not accurate, it's able to fix things. And they're spending a lot of effort on this. It seems like a fascinating product. One of the issues that they had was, and I think for a lot of AI companies, is being able to test that whatever data you have isn't going to hallucinate based on the language model that you have, and the data that the output is going to be accurate. So there's a lot of work going into that, but they're building a whole business around testing of AI models, which is an industry that probably didn't exist 12 months ago because
True.
there wasn't a need for it. So as much as there's roles in, I think, software development that are going away, there's also opportunities to figure out what holes can be plugged.
Yeah.
Where's the innovation in the space that's being developed as a new category? I heard a statistic that something like 90%, or I think it was like 90% of the businesses today that have data in them, there's not enough resources to actually help them figure out what they do with the data.
Mhm.
Like, how do they put that into a language model? And then how do they make use of it? And how do they make use of integrating AI? Because it's such a big market that there's not enough companies and consultants to go in and help them figure out how to move it forward as a project. So the big companies like Scale AI and a lot of these big organizations, the big consulting firms, yeah, they have the people, they have a strategy, they can go in and pitch their solution and implement and help start the process. But there's a lot in that sort of middle market space that there's a demand for it, and no one's serving it. So for the listeners out there, I think there's a ton of innovation and support around AI, and just for normal businesses
Mhm.
that want to figure out how they can better use their data for their own customer base. So I think there's kind of pros and cons to both, but it's enlightening to hear from different founders that are creating platforms and solutions about what they're seeing. We were on, like, I think close to episode 150 now of all founders, and A lot of them are AI companies, but a lot of them aren't. And there's so much that is still on the horizon that needs to be tackled that, and we're just scratching the surface, from my opinion.
True, true.
Um,
We do some consulting, and uh, we're helping companies to basically bring their data and create chatbot and um, you know, a layer on top of OpenAI. Um, Basically use the power. And the I feel like a lot of these old school companies that used to basically do a lot of customer support, all that data, all those messages that they have saved back and forth with all these questions, that's like gold now, because you can fine tune your model based on um, all these like customer data that you have and create like automated flows and maybe like save 30% of your cost, because like customer support is very expensive. Um, and now that basically it's easier to create chatbots, um, you're right. Maybe like a lot of people who used to work in customer support would lose their job, but then all these data companies need to come in and figure out how to bring all of that data into training AI models and create like custom experiences.
Yeah, I think we're early on in that, discovering what new services are out there that can be provided to companies, and then putting products around it, or maybe you invent a new company that solves problems for the masses. We don't know, but I spent 7 years at Oracle, and I was fascinated to learn recently that when most fintech, most big banks use Oracle's database on the back end. People don't know that Oracle is pretty pervasive on the back end of most big corporate systems. So whether you know it or not, you're probably in their database somewhere. But when those databases go down, businesses stop. And so they can't ever really go down. And they're using technology, and I'm sure it's AI today, where before systems even go down, they're fixed and up again. And that used to be people having to go in there and figure out, troubleshooting what the problem is, where it's at. Let's get it up. Let's get it up now. They have, backup servers and systems too that help, but they have systems now that you don't even have to touch it. They have AI QA that's testing and retesting and solving problems before they happen. And when they do happen, they're solved. And so it's really interesting to see behind the scenes. But now ChatGPT has brought it all to the forefront, where the consumer, knowing that they can actually see value by simple questions and getting answers back, which is fascinating. After we do this podcast, I'm going to send you the show notes of this podcast, which will be sent to within 5 minutes. It's going to be everything we talked about and the finer points that we pulled out of it, not me creating it, but with AI.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as just a use case from a podcast host, what used to take us 90 days to film something and to get it published really could be done in 10 minutes. I mean, if you really think about how quickly the AI is automating the system that we use today. Now, of course, there's more things to think about in terms of publishing, but that's all technology.
Yeah.
And, we have a whole team, but maybe we have to figure out how to maximize how our team works. And we're not letting people go. We're just, hey, let's think about new platforms we can go after, or new pro shows we can, produce. And so I think there is a combination balance of what you lose and what you gain, and then being strategic with that.
Definitely, we are, especially in the creative field, we are gaining some sanity. I remember like editing videos back in the day. How many times my computer crashed and my project wasn't saved. Now, just like I was just like cutting clips, like taking the good parts out and like putting them together. It took days. Now I've seen like After Effects plugins with AI that just like cuts everything for you, like in like a minute. And like that's crazy. Like I wish I could go back and do this and maybe like gain a few days out of my life back, because I feel like I lost a lot of time doing a lot of manual labor type of work on the computer that nowadays people don't have to do.
Yeah, I hear you. As we look into 2024, You've got multiple companies that you're working with. What are you excited about? What are you excited about the companies you're building today?
Um, I really hope that the economy would support what we are building, to be honest. Because like every time there is a hype around like a specific sector, there's a little setback. I'm a little bit afraid of 2024, to be honest, but like I'm super excited about AI and what it's bringing to the table. How it's going to shift our economy, that I don't know. Um, but with all of these like little ventures that we have going on and we are building and consultings and the trends that we are seeing, not only me but also my colleagues, um, I feel like this year we have to focus on like human experiences and like how to make life easier and more pleasant. Even if the economy is not good, then we might be able to do like other things that would help people to live a better life, maybe easier. Definitely, we don't control a lot of the economy cycles and the ups and downs. Uh, but two things that I'm hopeful for: one, no war in the world. That's like cliche, but I really believe that we need to go beyond human versus human and like understand we're all in this together. Soon we have to fight machines. And all these like silly wars that we are having right now would make no sense in the future. Um, Two, I feel like people, with all these tools that is going to be available to them, they really should just focus on creating. A lot of entrepreneurs out there, who are like the non-technical founders. Like I have a lot of friends who are non-technical founders, and with ChatGPT and all these like vast amount of knowledge, I feel like this is the best time for us to start learning things that we were passionate about before, but it was hard to go and learn about them. Now it's just like a few sentences away from us. And as a person who loves learning new things, even though there is no point because ChatGPT knows it all, but there's a pleasure that we get from like learning about new things, experiencing new experiences, like creating a new, I don't know, itinerary for the next travel using AI. Experiencing different places in the world using like virtual reality. These little things, I feel like, would be our little pleasures in the next year or two.
Yeah, I love that. We talked a little bit about what you created with the virtual reality immersion experience. For the listeners that want to go check it out, what's the website that they could go to see what that is?
Most of the projects that we have are on our website, virtulabs.com. And Virtu is VIRTU labs.com. And you could see, for example, the Illuminarium project that we've done. There's a little video there. And you could also go to Illuminarium, I think, the Atlanta one, or there's one in Vegas on their website. And if you're around there, you could go check it out. The shows are running and they're pretty cool. Um, and then other projects that we've done, you could also see some of the videos on our website.
And if somebody wants to send a letter out, a virtual letter to their loved ones or to their family members they're not going to see, maybe they're abroad and they want to just connect, but they want to use AI to do it, where would they go there to find the solution that you created there with, is it Cardamore AI?
Yeah, Cardamore AI, and Cardamore is CARDAMORE that AI, more. Um, yeah, and please send us feedback, like, and stay in touch because if you're passionate about this or if you had a good experience using Cardamore, we would love to hear from you.
That's great. Well, I want to wrap up here with just three questions. I call it three questions. It's just three questions, three answers. So Rob, for you, where do you go to think big or to brainstorm?
These days, chat, spot on. I had an opportunity to go to an office space. I've been remote for like a good 10 years now. And all of the projects that we work on, we usually do it remotely and then we get together and then we do some deployment or whatever. But I went to this office space and we did whiteboarding. And it's been like a while since I did actual whiteboarding with people. And I wish like ChatGPT was there and it could whiteboard with us. Like there was this disconnect between like actual the enjoyment of like brainstorming and drawing things on the whiteboard and instead of Googling, doing a chat GPT of like estimating and like all of that. Um, so I feel like a fusion of these two would be really cool to see, like whiteboarding, either remote or um, with your coworkers, and then having this AI to also fill in the gaps for you. Um, I like it both. With a lot of projects that we do because it's physical, we need to be face to face or like be in a place and do brainstorming together, which now we are used to doing it remotely. But and then like the input from ChatGPT is always appreciated. I always say
It sounds
thank
like a
you.
company right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Sounds like a solution you're ready to build. Being able to write it on a whiteboard collectively, and then seeing ChatGPT quickly immerse it on the board as you're talking.
I remember there were whiteboards out there that you could like use like a digital pen to write on. I think Cisco made one. Google made one.
Cisco, if you're listening,
Yeah.
you can reach out to Sorob, and he's got a.
There was this Jamboard thing from Google. That's now that they have that multi-model, I feel like it's just a few months away.
Yeah, gotcha. Very cool. Where do you, or what do you do to stay positive in the roller coaster of a bootstrapped company?
Oh yeah, yeah. Um, to be honest, I enjoy every step of it. All these challenges, I try to immerse myself with new problems all the time because like I would go crazy if there is no problem to solve in my life. Create problems. So every little thing I do, I get a little bit of like positive feedback, right? And you fail obviously a lot of times, but like I tend to focus on like what I've learned by things that didn't work. So next time I would not do that or do it differently. Um, but even that pain that you get from like doing projects and running like um, companies and startups, that pain is like positive pain. Like it's enjoyable um, suffering that you do because at the end of the day, you see the light at the end of the tunnel and you're just going towards it. Especially if you have users and that they can give you feedback, like it's hard work and then immerse you get a lot of positive feedbacks that would energize you to go back and do a lot more work just to satisfy your users. um, and I hope that next year AI would help us to do less of manual labor and then get our users happier faster.
That's great.
Yeah.
Last question for you. They say experience is the biggest teacher. What experience have you learned that you think is worth sharing with other founders that are building companies that you think is priceless?
Um, I've been always I've been always into like getting something out sooner and having people to use it and then watching them and based on the feedback that I get, go back and like build it up and get it bigger, make it bigger. I mean, to be honest, I've done only smaller projects for bigger companies. I haven't released my own ChatGPT or like $1 billion company yet. Uh, but two things that I really enjoy is creating experiences, watching people use it, and also like teams, like gathering talented group of people who are passionate about like that subject. I feel like that's the product, not what's being built. the teams that we make, like finding talent, finding, I would say, like people who are like with the same mentality and love to work on similar projects. That's the key. And I would always focus on that first.
That's great. Well, Sorob, I want to thank you for joining us today and sharing your story, and to all the listeners for listening. I really appreciate you spending your time with us today. Sorob, if somebody wants to find you or find any of your companies, where's the best place to go?
LinkedIn would be one of the good ways. Also, they can always email me. I'll be more than happy to jump on a call, brainstorm whatever they need. Also, it's been amazing talking to you, and this was a lot of fun. A lot of nerding out we've done the past hour, and I always love it, and this was great. Thank you.
Sure. Well, thank you to all the listeners again for listening. I hope you have a happy holiday, you as well as Sorob. Look forward to catching up with you in the new year. Until then, everyone, we'll see you on the next episode. My name is Jake Aaron Villarreal. Enjoy and take care. Before we wrap up, I want to give a big shout out to all the entrepreneurs that have joined to make this podcast possible, and for all the listeners for listening. It means the world to me that you chose to spend your time with us today. I'm your host, Jake Aaron Villarreal, signing off for now, but can't wait to connect with you all soon on the next episode. Take care. This show is sponsored by Match Relevant, a company that helps venture-backed startups find the best people in the market, and they do it in 3 simple steps. First, they sit down with founders to understand their story. Second, they tell their story into multiple candidate channels. And third, they schedule interviews within 48 hours. Find us at matchrelevant.com to learn more about how we do it.